Hi, everyone. Welcome to the third episode of Comic Monitors. I'm here with Darnell Henriquez and special guest Joey Betts. We're here to talk about our favorite secondary characters in comics, specifically the ones we'd like to see a lot more of. So, how are you guys doing?
I can't complain, really.
That's good.
Doing great. Just happy to be able to talk about this stuff.
That's good. So, either of you guys want to start out?
Let the guest start out.
Okay. Well, I this first character is actually the reason I brought up the topic at all. It's because I feel like he's criminally underused, and the one time somebody did pull him out, I thought it was executed poorly, and that's the Wesley Dodds version of the Sandman.
Yeah, that's the. Isn't that the one that appears in Kingdom Come?
Yeah. He appears in Kingdom Come. Had the amazing Sandman Mystery Theater run. But lately he was part of like this Black Ops squad called the Sandmen in the Earth 2 comic, and it just took all of really the intriguing parts out of him and just made him another generic government agent. But Wesley Dodds is the Sandman, just like this little, very sort of what's the word I'm looking for? This very sort of like introverted little guy that you wouldn't even look twice at him on the street. Just this little accountant, but he sees when he dreams, he sees through the eyes
when he
of
falls
killers.
asleep, he sees the future.
It's the coolest thing. He sees his future specifically through the eyes of various killers. There's actually some very similar to an old X-Files episode. They had like the killers, or the guy saw through the killer's eyes and the killer saw through his eyes. But yeah, and so Wesley Dodds puts on a gas mask and has a little gun that emits a sleeping gas and puts him to sleep. He's a hand-to-hand fighter, skilled detective, and just I love very pulpy noir stories. And there was the Sandman Mystery Theater stuff that was set in the 30s, and I just think that especially with as big as like police procedurals and stuff are, and it's been a long time since we've seen something as cool as like Gotham Central or anything like that. I think you could bring Wesley Dodds back into a more modern setting. Just again, instead of using him as just the generic government operative, make him again like the hard-boiled detective, fedora, trench coat, everything. And you could get really, really gritty and dark with some of the visions he might have. I love the character, and I miss him a lot.
Yeah, I can't say no too much about this character. I think I've seen the X-Files episode, but he does sound very interesting from what you've described. So, Darnell, you want to bring someone up?
Yeah, well, to add in my 2 cents about the Sandman thing, yeah, I pretty much, because the Sandman, I know, like I said, I know Wesley Dodds from the Kingdom Come story, but the Sandman that kind of gets into my head is the one from the JSA books, which I think is like the 3rd one in the series.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, the character, and I'm gonna go with the Marvel side. Matt, you know how much I praise this character. I want, even if it's not a main series, but instead it's just like constant little mini series. I want Moon Knight books so bad. Because for me, the whole point is like, Joey, you probably know who Moon Knight is, right?
Oh yeah, and I loved the stuff from a couple of years ago. The Warren Ellis run.
Yeah, because for me, that's what I feel like Moon Knight should be. Where it's like he should be this character that is, okay. To the audience who don't know, Moon Knight is. Do you think that he's kind of like Marvel's Batman? It's both an understatement, but kind of a good disclaimer. Mainly if you take into the fact that it's like, okay, costuming's kind of similar, but also the emphasis on the antisocial kind of man person. Because Moon Knight goes above beyond that by actually being a schizophrenic and actually having, like being the unreliable narrator sort of person, where it's like not even the reader can kind of, side with him and kind of saying like, okay, is this real? Is this fake? We don't know. And so he's had multiple runs. He has Michael Bryan Bendis. He's had Jeff Lemire with the latest run. He had Warren Ellis a couple of years ago. One of the things that all the writers kind of do very well, where like they use his fragile psyche against him and the audience, is that they always make it into like, okay, right now he's imagining that the voices in his head are different superheroes. Then he's imagining the voices that are in his head are different versions of himself. Then like his god, Khonshu, and so on and so on and so on. I kind of want that to where it's like we see kind of like every little miniseries is him relapsing into a different kind of psychosis.
I can see that, like every volume or every story arc or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the end, kind of spoilers for anybody who's read the current book. He kind of seems to like think that like, okay, I conquered my illness, like I rule me sort of thing. But it's like so any person that can tell you about illnesses is that they always creep back up. So the next time someone wants to pick up Moon Knight and they have this entire new vision, okay, I got a perfect idea on how his illnesses affects his personality, and then that's so on, and it goes into this, like I said, the whole point, because he is legitimately schizophrenic, reality is not real to him, and then that can make up so many different entendres who are like, okay, well, you can have these heroes, partner up with him, but they necessarily didn't really partner up with him. They're just visions in his head.
Right.
Yeah, Moon Knight interests me because he's one of the few comics protagonists who has a legit mental illness. I mean, you got characters who have their share of issues, like Batman obviously has some issues, and then there's Deadpool obviously, but Moon Knight, because he's, I guess, comparatively more realistic. So I think he does have a lot of potential, even if I haven't really read much of his material.
I think it's also more because it kind of show. Sorry, Joey, but I'm also saying it's because it kind of shows that they're not afraid of kind of stepping on him. Because with all the stories, it's like, okay, the hero needs to come out on top. Whereas with Moon Knight, he can come out on top by winning, but then personally, his life is a complete wreck. Like they're not willing to make him bloody, make him lose everyone he loves and that sort of thing, just to kind of point on the entendre that he even says so in one of the books that everybody I love dies, which is why I love no one.
Yeah, I think he's a fantastic character. We have so many talented writers in the community right now and in the industry. I mean, I'm not to say that I don't like what Jeff Lemire just did with his stuff, but I feel like what you were saying, kind of changing it up each volume or each story arc instead of dragging it on for like a whole saga, kind of like what was just done. I think that serves the character a lot better because you can explore the different facets of his psyche, and also just you can play with different sort of, not necessarily genres, but different sort of tones with each one, depending on which part of his psyche is in control. So I think it'd be a really cool way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a character I've been wanting to see a lot more of for a while now is Power Girl. We all know Supergirl's getting a big push in the comics right now. I actually think Power Girl is a superior character. I think she's a lot funnier. She has a lot more attitude. I think she just carries the story a lot better than Supergirl. She's just very defined. She's not she's not really super highbrow or anything, but I think she just lends herself to fun stories a lot more naturally than Supergirl does. So I think they should give her more of a push nowadays. I think maybe they could introduce her as a supporting character in Supergirl or something. I know they've kind of tried to set her up more in Harley Quinn, which is fine, but I think she should be on a new version of the JSA. I think DC should stop stepping on this character and reducing her to Earth 2 support.
That's actually a huge problem I had with this whole Earth 2 thing back in the New 52. Like I like the idea of Earth 2 just fine, like doing, kind of turning characters on their heads. But yeah, Power Girl kind of being a little bit more serious and a little bit more. I say serious even though her costume is a joke, but anyway, she's a little bit more mature and more seasoned, and so to see somebody with that kind of power would be not only that kind of power, but that sort of maturity that she brings to that power would be a lot better. Because I feel like a huge problem that happens with a lot of female superheroes is they're all written pretty similarly. Like right now, you can't really tell apart the current Batgirl from the current Supergirl other than their costumes. But they're both written very similarly in their civilian identities, and it's just supposed to be like the teenage girl of today or whatever. And so to see Power Girl, who's kind of a little bit more sure about herself and less teen angsty than Supergirl, I think that'd be a great story to read.
Yeah, I was talking to someone about that just the other day, about how a lot of female-led books, they just kind of merge into one because of how they're all kind of going for the exact same demographic. They all fill the exact same niche, so it's hard for any of them to really break out. And the reason I like Power Girl so much is because she kind of embraces the fact that she looks like the stereotypical bimbo. She's just like, yeah, I know people are going to underestimate me because I'm just like this like large-breasted blonde that everyone associates with, stupidity and bimbo-ness. So forget it. I'm just gonna go out, wear it on my shoulder and just let people see how much, and let people underestimate me so I can prove them wrong. I think they did a really great job just with this kind of character. So
absolutely, and it's kind of what we were just talking about a bunch of female characters kind of merging into one and being written exactly the same. And that's not necessarily what the audience wants, because we see people are enamored with the new Wonder Woman film, which was amazing. But from my little 3-year-old girl to my mom, 60 years old, she, like, all sorts of females and males alike are loving what happened in Wonder Woman, and she wasn't this this ditzy, oh gosh, these shoes don't go with this skirt kind of girl. She was very take charge and very, very mature, maybe a little naive, but still sure of herself. And so you don't need to sort of pander in the way some of these writers do, which I love what's going on in Wonder Woman right now in the books. And yeah, like I was saying before, if Power Girl were to go the same route and not be sort of pandering and kind of come down to the lowest common denominator, and was just a strong feminine character, like you said, maybe people underestimate her and then she's out to prove pretty much everybody wrong. I think it'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm. So Darnell, you got any thoughts?
No, I very much, like I said, because definitely it feels like that point of, like, the way I always view Power Girl is I always view her as she is what Supergirl would be like if she was an adult, if she was raised in the same way Superman was. Because the big part of Power Girl's origin is, I was raised by Superman after, I crash landed on Earth and I became kind of his surrogate daughter. So the way I always found Supergirl and Power Girl interesting was always because, Supergirl is that teen girl demographic, but then Power Girl is like the adult woman demographic, where it's like, Supergirl is more like she's learning, whereas Power Girl is always, well, I already did learn this.
Yeah, the way I see the difference between Power Girl and Supergirl is like Power Girl's a lot more like the classic Lara Croft, where she's like this very experienced, confident, sassy action hero, and then the new one, she's like a lot younger, more inexperienced. She's like more struggling just to survive as opposed to seeking out adventure. I think those two characters could coexist all right if they were willing to embrace them properly. But at the moment, I've got the feeling that if they did give Power Girl another shot, they'd turn her into kind of a Supergirl light, like they kind of did in many of the New 52 stories.
Yeah. Because I think, like I said, probably one of the best actions about her is the fact that she is so comedic, she is so this, because she is pretty much kind of human, whereas Power Girl is an example of what it looks like when it's like, a Kryptonian immigrant living on Earth. Power Girl is what just looks like, no, I embrace human culture the same way my cousin does.
Mm-hmm. So, Joey, it's your turn.
So going back to the mixed bag that is the New 52, this character actually had his own book in that was just awful. And I don't know that you could do a solo book, but I would love to see Firestorm come back in a team book. I was actually really hoping that he was going to show up in Justice League of America when it was first announced. And I get they were going in a different direction, but I miss this character so much. Actually, we were talking before we went live about when Cartoon Network used to be good. I used to watch like the old reruns of the Super Friends, which is where Firestorm first appeared. I just loved the character in that, as goofy as that show was. And I feel like with when his New 52 book came out, nobody really cared that they were taking a chance on Firestorm because the character was super unknown. But now with his more exposure on the CW and now in Injustice, I feel like having Firestorm on like a quirky or outside team book would provide him sort of the opportunity to explore that character a lot more. I think it's really cool having the different people inside his head and the duality of them trying to live their lives together but separately. But then also he could still do the comic relief thing that Firestorm usually does. And I just think he's a really cool character with a really cool power set. Basically not only flight and fire, but also basically having the Midas touch and transmuting things. I think it's really cool, and I wish he would come back and be done well.
Yeah, so you'd prefer it to be like kind of like Ronnie and Jason inhabiting the same body as Firestorm?
Yeah, I didn't like where it was too separate there for a little bit. I like the idea of them having to work together, especially like if you wanted to even redo the origin, since we're in the whole rebirth thing. But if you wanted to like go back and redo the origin and basically instead of just having two people with different lives, like you could really say a lot about the jock, even though it'd be a little Breakfast Clubby, I guess, but like the pain that the jock is actually having to hide from the world and put this big tough macho attitude out in front, and like the nerdy kid who's always getting picked on, but he knows he could do so much more if people just gave him the chance or whatever. I feel like you could do a lot with these two characters learning about each other, and again, as their bond grows stronger as friends, then they start to unlock more and more with Firestorm and become a greater hero as they work together and put their differences aside. And I mean, it sounds a little after school specially. I get that, but I still think it's a really interesting place that you could explore with that character.
I love the Breakfast Club. I'd be all for that. Yeah, I did read.
Who doesn't love the Breakfast Club? Like, we can't
be
friends if you don't like the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, I did read a little bit of New 52 Firestorm. I thought the character was just very unlikable. It was kind of like, I guess it was kind of like Super Sons, where they're constantly going at each other's throats, but there's no really heart behind it.
Exactly.
It just felt like aggression for the sake of aggression. They were trying to be too edgy, too angry. I feel like Firestorm does work with a slightly more of a comedic edge.
Yeah, he doesn't have to be slapstick, but just kind of like just kind of like throwing a little bit of levity in there every now and then, like the Iceman of the team.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Darnell?
No, like I said, because right now I'm trying to remember all the Firestorm books I read. Like the most memory I can remember of is Blackest Night, where it's like you had Jason running away from Black Lantern Ronnie, and then Ronnie's just like, oh hey Jason, you like your girlfriend, don't you? You know that Bible story? And he just snaps his hand and he turns it to Pillar of Salt. And then after Blackest Night, and then Ronnie's back to life. And they have to kind of just consult each other on the fact that, dude, you turned my girlfriend into a literal pillar of salt. And, they have to just, come together with that fact.
Exactly. And that's the problem is, everybody prior to this, all the CW shows, the only things they would know about Firestorm were either the lackluster New 52 book or that nonsense with Blackest Night. And so like nobody really cared. But like I said, with him being pretty popular across the CW shows, and Injustice 2 has gotten a pretty solid following, and he's in that, I feel like it'd be a good time kind of capitalize on that popularity and take a serious look at what you could do with that kind of character.
Yeah, I'd be all for that. I mean, he does have some of the coolest and most unique powers in the DC universe, and he does have a pretty interesting premise to back it up. So I'd be all for a bigger Firestorm push. Okay, I think you're up, Darnell.
Yeah, so I think since like I said, pretty much we're doing that. Joey's doing the DC. I'm gonna do the Marvel thing. For me, Matt here knows my obsession with this character, but I love and we were talking about like the young girl demographic book. But for me, a character I love it because she kind of does it so well that you know, like I said, I almost feel like if I was a character in the Marvel universe, like that, this would be almost like the first go-to character I would go, even after Emma Frost and and Wanda, and it would be Araña Corazone's Spider-Girl.
Okay.
Because her main thing is essentially she's this Mexican Puerto Rican girl who her father was a kind of like this reporter that was very friendly to the superheroes. You know, he knew the Fantastic Four, he knew the Avengers. He asked interviews for Spider-Man, the X-Men. You know, like he pretty much like was one of the guys that was very friendly with superheroes, and he always would take his daughter along, so she kind of became friendly with them. But after magic Mexican spider shenanigans, she gets her powers, and then after that, the Red Hulk accidentally kills her dad. So she kind of lives on her own as an 18-year-old, and you know her content pretty much looks like the black suit, and you know so on and so on. And so her entire thing is she's like a young teenage Spider Girl. And one of my favorite things about her character is kind of the idea that she is not comedic, but you kind of know that she's like cleverly comedic for someone that is kind of a rookie. Like there's a point where she's fighting the Hobgoblin, and Peter's like, you know that scream could kill you, right? And like this is during the time where you lost your powers. And she's fighting and she's beating him up, and she's using like wires and threads to knock him off his glider. And even when she's doing the scream, it doesn't work on him, and she's beating him up. And then when Peter's like, "How did you do that?" And then she can just see that she's not hearing Peter, and it's because she suffered her ears with so much gum, it actually kind of like blocked out any hearing from any hearing.
I'm so glad you brought her up. That's actually the biggest reason why I wanted to. I was excited for this topic was because, yeah, some of these amazing characters you completely forget about, and yeah, I completely forgot about her, but she's so great. Like for everything you said, just she really took to her powers pretty quickly. She loves being a superhero, and she's gonna get the job done no matter what. And I get that they want to do this whole thing with Spider Gwen. And kind of go, oh, what if Gwen Stacy got bit by the spider? I get that, but man, just thinking now, if they had taken like the teenage Spider book and given it to her instead of another blonde white girl, you could have done a lot of cool things with her. I love that character. I'm so glad you brought her up. Thank you.
I mean, once again, probably my favorite thing is so you have Avengers Assemble, which was just a cash in out for the movie, but then literally halfway through the book, they just said, no, let's just make it about her. Let's just make it about her hanging out with the Avengers and her learning from them. Like I said, that made actual sense. Like the way she would like learning from them, and like she would take on different aspects. Like forever with Spider-Woman, and she's like, "Can I ask you something?" And then Spider-Woman is it about boys? No. Then go ahead and ask. And then with Wolverine, it's like, have you taken notes? It's like, wait, what? And it's like, have you taken notes for God's sakes? If you're going to be a superhero, you have to take notes on every single crime and every villain. And then and so on and so on. It's like I said, it feels like she is this young, naive character, but it's more like inexperienced rather than like, hey, I'm ditzy. And the parts where she does act like a cute teenager, they're allowed. Like they're not like, oh, I'm doing this in the middle of battle. It's more like, hey, I'm in my room and I'm listening to headphones.
Okay, so if we're done discussing Spider-Girl, I like to talk about a few characters who used to be fairly prominent, but have taken a bit of a downfall in recent years. It's Tim Drake, Stephanie Brown, and Cassandra Cain from the Batman books. They were like the 90s Bat kids. I think they work because they were all very defined teenage characters. Like you got Tim, who's probably the best, who was a former Robin. He's probably the best audience surrogate character ever because he was very relatable, but not in a blank slate sort of way. Like whenever you read his stories, you got the sense that he was a pretty well-rounded human being. He was like this gifted but not unrealistically intelligent character who just had to kind of struggle constantly and just like, fine-tune all the skills he had in order to win his battles. So that's why it was interesting. Then he had Stephanie Brown, who was like, a bit more wacky. She was kind of a rookie who wasn't super talented or anything, but she just wanted to help out. I think she worked a lot. Then you had Cassandra Cain. Both Stephanie and Cassandra are former Batgirls. Then you got Cass, who was probably the most unique of the bunch. She was like, had very little social skills. She didn't talk much. She was very empathetic regardless. She had a very dark backstory, and she kind of struggled to come into the light a lot more than those others. They were starting to have a bit of a resurgence just before in the late 2000s. Like they made Stephanie Batgirl, they turned Tim into Red Robin. They both had very good books. Then the reboot came along and ruined everything. But I think if they gave those characters a push again nowadays, audiences would be receptive to it, because there's a lot of Bat family books at the moment that aren't really working out. Like Batgirl is not selling that well. Batwoman is not a big success. I think if they actually put some effort into building those characters back up, they could become really popular again, because they are easy to like. They are very well defined, even if they don't get their full histories back. I think they could all fill a niche that isn't really being taken advantage of right now.
Well, my question would be, how do you feel about the way they're being handled in Detective currently?
I have some issues with it, aside from the fact that being part of the tech team is a fairly minor role in the DCU. I'm not thrilled with how most of them are being written. I think Tim is still too much like his New 52 self. He's too smart. He's like Junior Reed Richards. He's like building subway systems under Gotham. He's building armies of robots. He solves all his problems by pressing buttons on his computer. I like the old Tim a lot better because he was a strategist. He had to put a lot of effort into thinking his way out of problems. Like even if he didn't have have a lot of raw power, so he had to just think of ways to outsmart his enemies. Like I think there was this great moment in Red Robin where he was going up against Ra's al Ghul, and there was no way he could take him one-on-one in a fight. So he ended up.
So he says, "I'm not Batman. I have friends."
Yeah, and he ended up like just finding a way to distract him from his plans. While I think someone else took care of his work for him. It's been a while since I read this story, but I think he works a lot better as a strategist than this master hacker who solves all his problems with button pressing. And then there's Steph, who's kind of a lot more angsty than I'd like her to be. I know her boyfriend has just died, but I kind of want them to move on from that already, because I like Steph because she was like kind of brightened up the stories she was in. Like initially it was Robin who was meant to be the one who brightened up Batman. She was the one who brightened up Robin. I like that a lot, but their current version is a bit angsty. And then Cass is fine, I guess. I have no major complaints with how she's being written.
Okay, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you were saying. When you were talking about the way Tim used to be, it made me think of it was all the way back in Hush, where Batman kind of has the inner monologue comparing the three Robins. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Okay, yeah, I've been looking for the panel while you were talking about it. So he says, Dick saw being Robin as a thrill. It's probably why he outgrew it. Jason saw being Robin as a game. It's probably what got him killed. And he says, but Tim, he wants to be the world's greatest detective. And from what I've seen so far, he will be someday. And so I think that plays a lot to what you were saying about him being the strategist and basically having the plan. And the more I think about it, the Robins, the main Robins anyway, Dick, Jason, and Tim, they're all kind of aspects of Batman. Dick was the adventurer, Jason was the vigilante, but yeah, Tim is very much the detective, the guy who has a plan for everything. And you're right. I get what you're saying about him basically just pressing buttons now instead of making actual plans and kind of doing the legwork himself.
Yeah, I remember that scene very well. And it's another thing I don't like so much about current Tim is that like he wanted to take a break from superheroing and go away to college. I was a bit disappointed by that. I think that by this point in his crime-fighting career, he should be a lot more invested in it. And again, why does he even need to go to college when he's smart enough to build armies of robots by himself?
Exactly.
And his circuit father owns a company which he can pretty much. I know people would say that it's what's the word, nepotism, but come on, when you're that smart that you can go up the corporate ladder on the tech side, is it really nepotism?
Right, and he talks about wanting to go off to college and how they had to put up these applications and everything, and it's just like, yeah, like why would you leave this mission that you've given yourself? But like you said, New 52 Tim is different. You don't have the old Tim who basically well, I don't know. Is it still the whole thing like Captain Boomerang killed his dad, and is that still a thing?
No, his parents are
No, it wasn't.
his parents are alive in this continuity.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So like he went through a similar tragedy. At least old Tim went through a similar tragedy as Batman, and yeah, even though he didn't he did let it get him down for a while. But like you said, Stephanie sort of brought out the good in him again and made him kind of get his head back in the game. And yeah, you lose a lot of that gravitas and a lot of that background with everything they're doing now, as hard as they try.
Yeah, I think this character is going to be held back a lot if they don't restore some version of his old continuity. Because if you recall his New 52 origin, they made it so he basically destroyed his parents' lives, where he used his magic computer hacking skills to steal a bunch of money from the Penguin and give it to poor people or something. So Penguin ordered a hit on his family, and then ended up having to go into witness protection for the rest of their lives. And then he didn't really receive any punishment for screwing up the lives of his family. He got to be the sidekick of the world's greatest detective. So that was probably one of the worst origin updates in comics history, and I'll be extremely disappointed if they don't retcon it somehow.
I think that was a suppressed memory. I don't remember that at all, but yeah, that is terrible.
Yeah, it was in Teen Titans issue 0.
Oh, okay. Although, to be fair, you gotta kind of take my opinions on the whole matter with a grain of salt. I'm the guy who says Bruce Wayne should have stayed dead and Dick Grayson should have stayed Batman. So,
well, we knew that would never happen, so why even hope for it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the Babs Girl is starting to lose steam. I guess they could bring in a new creative team to kind of salvage her. But I think the best way to salvage the Batgirl book is to give one of those other girls a shot, because they are, in my opinion, much better characters than Babs, who worked a lot better as Oracle. But it's hard to get her back into the Oracle role without crippling her again, and we all know what a massive backlash that would cause. And with the movie coming out, we're kind of stuck with Babs Girl in all mediums. So I don't really know how you'd carve out a new niche for either of those other girls, because I don't think a spoiler ongoing would get much attention. I don't think what's Cass's name again?
Black Bat. Or Orphan now. Used to be Black
That's
Bat.
right, Orphan. It's so forgettable I couldn't even remember it. I don't think either of them could sustain solos in either of their current identities. So it would be interesting to find out a way to make them big again without the Batgirl role. But DC doesn't seem too interested in them, so that'll probably never happen. At least they seem somewhat interested in Tim, like they are building up to something with him. But again, I don't think Red Robin really holds a lot of weight anymore. I think he needs a new identity to take off.
Well, and it's got me kind of wondering now. Do you think maybe they felt like they were the writers, that is, they felt like they were sort of missing the technological aspect now that Oracle was gone, and so they made Tim the button pusher and the coordinator?
I think so. That might have been their motivation, but the problem is he didn't really fill the Oracle role. He wasn't really at the heart of the family like Oracle was. He was off doing his business with Teen Titans and being a terrible leader. So it didn't really.
I agree that the execution's poor. It just got the gears spinning and made me think about it.
Yeah, that could be their motivation. So if we've said enough about those characters. Anyone want to bring up someone new?
Darnell, you got anyone else?
The X-Men in general. I mean, and I'm not just saying like yes, the main team of the X-Men, but I'm just saying like I want the idea of the mutant and the you can even still keep the Inhumans, just have the Inhumans isolated away like they were in the past, what made them great. But then just have like the mutants running around, so that we see that it's like you know like so mutants are the underdogs again, like they are the like whatever fucking you want them to be representative of in that way, because what made the mutants great, they're trying to do for the humans that just doesn't work is the mutants don't have a culture. They're not they are almost never going to be unified because there's so many differences among them. And that's why it makes it so like individual mutants can rise up, and like you know that's why we have Legion, that's why we have Cable, that's why we have you know Multiple Man. Is because it's like the idea that it's like you know the mutant can be representative of any person regardless of their identity, regardless of who they say they are, regardless of anything. As long as you feel like the outsider, you can be a mutant. Whereas the Inhumans are no, they are directly a culture, a religion, a group, you know like it is directly too specific to be a mutant. And you know I want that back. I want the new mutants popping out and making a name for themselves. You know, 'cause each generation has new mutants popping out, and like they're not like the big ultimate. Oh, I'm the next Wolverine sort of character, but they're still like, man, that character is so cool. We're gonna give him a miniseries. We're gonna put him on a team, and he's gonna be in the background, you know, doing stuff and being you know the character that you know the other mutants are promoting and that sort of thing. But it still feels like it's made out of it's still like the mutant community is a community of individuals all coming together rather than you know like a community that's binded by something arbitrary.
Yeah, and I think the issue with the X-Men books, it isn't even that they're very isolated from the rest of the Marvel universe. They were pretty isolated for most of their existence up until the 2000s, I think. It's just that this has been said a million times before. Marvel just doesn't care about these characters. They don't want them to do well. They're never going to put their top writers on these books. They're never going to make them a big priority. It's just until they get those damn movie rights back. But that's such a cliche. I don't even know why I brought it up. But yeah, I think you can go.
I was just going to say, you know, they try to deny that. They try to deny that, you know, oh, no, we don't want X-Men to fail. It has nothing to do with the movies, blah, blah, blah. But then you look at so many of their books that they manipulate and retcon and alter to match the movies. You even have Baby Groot in the current Guardians of the Galaxy comic.
Mm-hmm.
So
even though it's been always kind of established in the books before that Groot can kind of grow from a baby that quickly.
Exactly. So to try to say that you don't market and write your books based off of your films is a complete lie. So don't try to tell me that you know Fox having the movie rights to X-Men doesn't affect the way you write X-Men or who you put on the X-Men books. Because even if you're not trying to bury them, it still shows that you're not putting as much effort into it.
I mean, that's why one of the reasons why when I saw the Cable book, I was just really surprised because it's like, holy crap, Robinson is just pretty much doing Cable. He's not trying to change Cable in any way. This is just a Cable story.
I haven't read that yet, so maybe I'll have to look at that.
It's literally just like Cable time traveling, and like you know, like he goes from like the old West to feudal Japan to the future, and you know, it's just a time travel story. There's no continuity. There's no change really to anything. The only change really is like what happened to like the last few books, where it's like he finally got his psychic powers back. But aside from that, it's like you know nothing. Like they don't even reference Wolverine or anything like that.
Awesome. Okay, I get behind that.
Yeah, I might have to check it out because I'm not happy with any of the current X-Men books. I tried giving Gold a chance, and I can't read that one anymore. I was reading it at the same time as Mutant Massacre. It's one of the Claremont stories. It's the one where like Mr. Sinister has the what were they called again?
The Marauders.
Yes, the Marauders like go and slaughter all the Morlocks. It's not even his best story, but the difference in quality between that and X-Men Gold was like night and day. I mean, I know Claremont is like one of the all-time greats, and like there aren't many writers who can be compared to him, but still, just the
I mean, no, not even just compare him to Claremont. Just compare him to either like Morrison when he started out with X-Men, with X-Men Eve for Extinction, or Joss Whedon when he did Uncanny X-Men, and you can see the comparison. You can see this kind of like this vibrant like yes the X-Men versus hey the X-Men.
yeah, because the franchise was fine just a few years ago before like Avengers versus X-Men was the turning point. Before then, you had Wolverine and the X-Men by Jason Aaron. That was like the more quirky, comedic, lighthearted run. That was great. Then you had Kieron Gillen.
Uncanny X-Men, which was led by Cyclops.
Yeah, which was like the more serious, slightly more gritty one, where you had like Cyclops and Emma, like running that really kind of badass the Extinction team. So I think that, and then you had all the spin-off books. Say that you had like X Factor and I think X Force and all that. So the franchise would be great right now if they just went with that direction. But instead, AVX had to happen, and then they put Bendis in charge of everything, and then that was the beginning of the end. So yeah, I agree that the X-Men as a whole do kind of count as a secondary team at this point, which is sad. They're just saying the X-Men have become secondary in the MCU.
Yeah, when the Inhumans, okay, the like Darnell pointed out, the Inhumans are a higher profile, which I mean I guess sounds kind of counterintuitive to what we're talking about here. We want more.
No, but here's the difference because it's not doing it in the correct way. Because the way I see the Inhumans, like I said, I see them almost the same way I would view Italians, or I would view people from like a specific country in Africa, where it's like they are a community. Like I said, that like because when you look at like the graphic novel, The Inhumans, they talk about the city, they talk about the culture, they talk about them like they were a group, not rather like they are these individuals. And this, and the whole point of the Inhumans, they treasure their powers and the way they get it very quickly. Not everyone in the community can be an Inhuman, because if you are genetically damaged, they don't want you to reproduce, and then that entire thing, and then have it to where it's like we have these people with like giant deformities running around and causing trouble.
No, absolutely, I understand that it's different. What I was getting at was that it shouldn't be like, yes, we want some of these characters to get more attention and be handled betterly. Wow, betterly anyway. They should be handled better, but it shouldn't be at the expense of other characters, like it seems to have done to the X-Men.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted.
No. I know. I was just saying, like, the X-Men have definitely suffered, as you guys have pointed out, in order to lift up the Inhumans, and even at the same time, just like Darnell said, even the Inhumans has kind of lost what sort of made them interesting. Like, the characters are still pretty interesting, but yeah, taking out the cultural and like intercultural politics and stuff like that, sort of the inside baseball of the Inhumans, like to take that away, yeah, it makes them less interesting, just so you can try to get more books out there and get more people to come again watch your movie and your TV show.
Yeah, if I was going, like, I think if Marvel wanted to push the Inhumans a bit more, I think they should have just done a book that was set almost entirely on Attilan. They don't even really have to interact with the main Marvel heroes. It's just set entirely in their city. They're just kind of world building them, focusing on the different aspects of their civilization, kind of like the current Aquaman run that's set almost entirely in Atlantis. Excuse me a second. I need to let my cat out.
Is it the rapey one? Matt, is it the rapey one?
I'm not going to justify that question with an answer. But as I was saying,
It was.
I think if they wanted to push the Inhumans, just kind of set it entirely in their civilization, do some world building, focus on their culture instead of turning them into wannabe X-Men. Because like a lot of a lot of the covers for their series are revolting. It looks like they're like turning the Inhumans into a teen comedy.
Okay, yeah, because to point out something Joey said, where it's like, yeah, a lot of so interesting. The Black Bolt book, I remember talking to you about this, Matt, yesterday. The Black Bolt book is really good because it looks at Black Bolt after all the events that have happened with the Inhumans and kind of his own personal failures and him trying to having to, like save himself from this prison where he gets killed, where he actually dies every day and then for some reason gets resurrected because of the jailer who seems to like have this weird personal vendetta against him.
Okay. So are there any other Inhumans books you think aren't a total waste? Because there's quite a few of them.
I originally liked Karnak when it first came out, but no, because like I said, the only main way I would have seen that is like I said, would have made sense is what Joey said, which was talking about the interpersonal politics, a book about Black Bolt himself, a Black Bolt and Medusa book, and then maybe a book about Maximilius. That's the only other way I can see it. Because okay, he probably deserves his own book because, like I said, Maximilius is the character of the Inhumans that is more, knowledgeable of the open world. So it would make sense to like, kind of cash in on the Game of Thrones hype, where it's like you have a character that is literally the Game of Thrones character villain before Game of Thrones was even a thing, and how he kind of, is plotting to scheme to fight his brother 1 second, and then literally because he's insane, work with his brother the other hand, and then go to Earth, and then he talks a lot of the Earth lingo and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love Maximus. You're right. He is very much he is Tyrion Lannister in the Marvel universe.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and even once again, the best thing is also just the sheer fact that when he actually finally does win the crown, he's so bored and so stressed out from all the paperwork that when Black Bolt comes, he just throws the crown at him, saying, "I am never taking the throne away from you again. I might kill you, but it's not because of the throne."
Okay, moving on from the Inhumans, before we bring up any of our personal picks, a fan asked if we could talk about Sam Guthrie, aka Cannonball. Either of you a fan of this character?
I always liked him because I always liked how he is like he almost feels like a mixed package with Sunspot, where it's like, these are the two best friends, like kind of like Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, or I'm trying to remember other dual heroes. But it always seems like the way he's written makes him feel like he's part with with Sunspot, and like I said, that kind of grows. That's kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about how these individual characters all grow up, and maybe they're not like the extreme top tier character that's like, oh, we need him in a book, kind of like Wolverine, but it kind of like people do get attached to.
Yeah, I like.
Because I mean, like I said, he goes from like literally kid in the new X-Men book to, from what I remember, actually having a wife and kids and that sort of thing, and being a teacher to the next generation of the X-Men. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, I like Cannonball fine. I mostly know him from his original incarnation in New Mutants, which is kind of like this wholesome country boy. Not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's a good kid. I mean, I'm sure he's grown a bit since then, but I like him fine.
Yeah, he's one of those characters that I've kind of grown up with. I really enjoy Cannonball. I mostly enjoy when he joined up with X-Force, and it was kind of Cable's tough love against Cannonball's naivete, and it almost seemed like almost seemed like Cable sort of saw what Cannonball could be, and so he's trying to get him there. And so now to see, you know, where he's come when you get back into I remember the Regenesis storyline, and he was going alongside Wolverine, and yeah, like you guys were saying, you know, he started teaching and was kind of working at the school and sort of mentoring the next generation. I loved that. I haven't read U.S. Avengers at all because I'm not big on comedy books so much, and I don't even know if it is a comedy book. But
no, here's the thing: New Avengers from All Different Marvel was a comedy book, and it actually handled it better. U.S. Avengers is just a book that's like I can't even describe it.
Yeah, it just I saw that first cover. I was like, so you're telling me you have Squirrel Girl, the most in-your-face Muraco Red Hulk ever, and like I'm out. And what's her name?
The daughter from the guy that saved Iron Man's life.
Yeah, Jensen's daughter.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm not. I wasn't feeling it, and especially since what the first story arc is called American Kaiju. I've got nothing against Kaiju. It's just that's not what I was looking for when I really enjoy the characters of Cannonball and Sunspot. Again, like we were saying, but just seeing how far they've come, I feel like it was almost a throwaway to send them over to there.
Yeah, the thing about USA Avengers is it's probably the lowest common denominator book ever, and that's because it existed purely to sell variant covers. Like the original.
Oh yeah, that was that one.
Yeah, the first had 50 variants, each for a different state, and it was like the number one.
No, Matt, you forgot 51 because they also included Puerto Rico, and no, they included Washington D.C.
Okay, so they had like a 50 plus variant covers, like, you know, each for a different state, and ended up being like the number one top selling comic of that month just for that reason. And then the second issue was like I don't know, a 250,000 issue drop because no one had any interest in it otherwise.
Yeah, and that's sad because Cannonball is a really great character who's kind of gone through a lot since the 80s till now, and yeah, to just kind of see him kind of shuffle off to the side, even farther away than the rest of the X-Men. Yeah, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. So moving on from him, I'd like to bring up another Marvel team I like a lot, the Young Avengers. I am a huge fan of the first volume. I haven't really
Who introduced you to that series?
Some guy I know of introduced me to the series, and it was very nice of them to do it because I liked it a lot. Darnell introduced me in case you didn't pick up on that. But I'm a big fan of the first volume of this series. I don't really like anything else that's been done with these characters after that. I did not like the second volume. I thought it was slightly painful to read. And after that, pretty much every member of the team has just been kind of shuffled off to a different corner of the MCU. I'd really like them to do a book where they just bring back the original team back together. They're probably a bit too old to be Young Avengers, but just find another prefix, give them a new series, because it's probably the best teen heroes book I've read aside from Young Justice, which I'd like to talk about if we have time later in the video. It just gets all these it's like a Marvel, we all know they really want their like young, diverse teen heroes to catch on. Some of them turn out better than others, but Young Avengers was the one teen hero book where pretty much everyone worked. Like you had a young gay couple. They worked really well because they were characters first and foremost, who also happened to be LGBT. You had a black character who also struggled with drug use and had confidence issues, so he turned to drugs in order to boost his power. And then they managed to complete his character arc so that by the end of it, he ended up being like the team leader. They just evolved all these characters very naturally over the course of a fairly short run. So I think it had an element of sincerity that a lot of Marvel comics are really lacking. And even though I want these characters back together, I'm kind of afraid of them doing it because I'm so scared they'll screw it up. Because we all know how the second volume turned out not so well. It kind of lacked the sincerity of the original series. So I think there's a lot of untapped potential with this Young Avengers team. I just don't trust Marvel to tap into it.
Yeah, I loved. You're right. I loved the first volume of Young Avengers. I thought having a heroic version of Kang was really cool. You know, not just the Kang who's helping out because of because of convenience.
Because he learned so much from all this experience, but one that actually wants to perfect it all.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was really cool to have him. There were a couple of additions throughout the run that I liked. Like I really liked Novar. I kind of miss him, but yeah, just the stories kind of just fell off, and I think that's partially because of I didn't like all the stuff with the Initiative and the post Civil War stuff, and I feel like the story started to fall off after that. But yeah, those characters used to be something great, and they just kind of gone off into the distance. Except Kate is still pretty. Kate Bishop's still pretty prominent, and she's a personal favorite of mine because I mentioned to you before the cast how the Spider-Man being my second favorite Marvel character. Hawkeye is actually my favorite Marvel character ever, and so I've enjoyed some of the stuff, seeing Kate grow up and kind of become a hero of her own instead of kind of the wannabe that the Young Avengers started out as.
Yeah, I think Kate's current solo, it could use a better writer. I mean, I like the character a lot. I'm fine with her getting a push. I just don't like how they're giving her a push right now.
That's fair.
But yeah, I still think it would be someday when Marvel has their shit together for them to I don't know, do a reunion title where they just get the original team together. Although I don't know how they do the Vision because of how that character's evolved. They might have to slot someone in.
Well, no, very simple. They just bring in his daughter from the. They just bring in his daughter from the Vision book.
Okay, that could work. That could work.
It's like, honey, when I was you know this from my memory banks, but when I was destroyed, these kids brought me back and taught me humanity in a way I didn't with my original friends. Now you're gonna learn the same as I did.
Or, I mean, Vision technically replaced Iron Lad on the team. So, I mean, if you just bring Iron Lad back, you might not even need a Vision on the team. But if you were to use Vision, that's definitely, what you were saying, Darnell, that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I'm personally fine with where Iron Lad or Nathaniel Richards, his development in that series left off. He ended up kind of going back to his rightful place in the timeline so he could become Kang. I'm fine with how he turned out, so I don't know. I'm not sure I really want them to alter his ending like that. But anyone else got thoughts on the Young Avengers, or should we move on to someone new?
I think someone new. I think we all said our piece on it.
Okay.
One thing I will say, when you were talking about how, can I actually say, I know for maybe not a lot of people have been reading the Secret Empire thing, but I just think it's one of the stupidest things now that they introduced a new Patriot when this could have been just a perfect opening to bring back the original Patriot. It's like, oh, you mean Hydra's coming back and everything like that, and the besmirching of the Captain America title? Boom! I'm out of retirement.
Wait, I didn't know there was a.
Yeah, they're doing a new Patriot. And you can tell it's not Ezekiel because of the fact that he's way too older and way buffer. Like they're still not giving him from what I remember reading, they didn't give him a name. They didn't give him a name back, but it's like he is way too different looking to be Ezekiel.
Yeah, that really pisses me off because I think that the reason they left Eli out of the second.
Yeah, Eli. I mean.
Yeah, out of the second volume of Young Avengers is because they did have plans to make him a more prominent character in the MCU. I don't know what the specifics are. I don't know if they even announced the specifics, but they ended up getting canceled, and they ended up having downplayed this character for nothing. And now the fact that they're replacing him like this instead of bringing him back is pretty fucking frustrating.
And also, like I said, it's not like, oh, well, this character, because yes, this character had an arc and it ended. I get that. That's one of the things I always like about stories when we have a character that had an arc and it ended. But it's like, if this is any excuse to bring him back, this is a pretty good one. This would be like if, like, a former Green Lantern, it's like, oh, wow, the core is dying. Let me put back the ring.
Absolutely, yeah. You're right. The instant Eli sees that Captain America broke bad, and that's somehow going to tarnish the memory of his grandpa as well. Like, yeah, you put your little domino mask back on, and you go to work.
But instead, he is remaining stuck in limbo, so Marvel can push a new legacy character that no one asked for.
Yeah. Which, oh gosh, I know this isn't the topic right now, but yeah, all those legacy quote announcements. Wow, what was it? One new book in the whole thing?
Yeah, I think the new announcements were there's like a Ghost Rider team book with like a Johnny and Robbie and Satana for some reason, and then
Blade on there too.
Yeah, he might have been. I don't remember. And then they're making the Fantastic 2 with a Johnny and Ben. They're like not bringing back the Fantastic Four. They're just making it a team up book.
Not even duo, just 2.
Yeah. Yeah, Fantastic Duo does sound a lot better, but yeah, Fantastic 2 is what they gave us.
Yeah. So
I have another one if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Unless you guys want to talk more about the Young Avengers.
I think we're done.
Go ahead.
Okay, so to kind of redeem myself from Darnell calling me out for only mentioning DC characters.
I was just saying because it's kind of funny since you're in the left, I'm in the right, and Matt's kind of in the center, and we're just keep batting back and forth.
No, I got you. I didn't take offense. I just thought it was funny the way that was working out. But I do have a Marvel character. Do either of you have any clue who Darkhawk is?
Yes, I do. Wait. Oh, no, wait. I'm thinking of Hawk from, like, Hawk and Dove. Refresh my memory.
Oh, no.
What was Darkhawk in, wasn't he in New Warriors?
He was, yeah. He was in New Warriors. He was in War of Kings.
Oh, yeah. I just remember, yeah, because he was in Guardians.
Yeah, for a little bit, yeah. And then the last. No,
also in the movie. That was Stallone's character.
Do what?
That was Stallone's character in the movie.
No. Oh, no. That was, I know that's, I mean, it's a similar name, but that's Starhawk.
Oh. All right.
No, Darkhawk, yeah, like Matt said, it was part of the New Warriors. It's hard to describe him as anything but Space Batman. Is a teenage guy, Chris Powell. He found an amulet that made him switch powers or switch places with a powerful android that like his mind controlled. And so Darkhawk itself was just like it was just a robot and just sort of controlled by Powell mentally. And there was a lot of like street level stuff for a while. And yeah, he joined the New Warriors and fought like Tombstone and Hobgoblin and things like that. But when they took him out into space and he started being in like the War of Kings and Realm of Kings stuff and started palling around with Nova and things like that, there were some really cool things exploring like the past of the amulet and the history of it and kind of what the Darkhawk robot is. And there even showed up a second one. In any case, I would love to see this sort of dark vigilante character in space come back. I kind of want to see him basically traveling from planet to planet, kind of how if Nova is kind of like the space cops, like Darkhawk is basically the outside the law version of that, just going and righting wrongs and fighting like the underbelly of all these different planets across the cosmos. Because I feel like a lot of cosmic Marvel right now is mainly just flooded with the Guardians of the Galaxy, which because of the movies has taken a decidedly lighter tone compared to what it used to be. And so to see more of the the dark sort of outer rim, if you will, of the Marvel Cosmic Universe with Darkhawk as this vigilante would be pretty great, I think.
Yes, and that kind of reminded me of one of the characters I wanted to talk about, who's kind of like the polar opposite of Darkhawk. It's Adam Strange from DC. He's like I recently got acquainted with this character. He's kind of like a retro science fiction hero, kind of like a
He's Flash Gordon. He's DC's Flash Gordon.
yes, I was going to say Buck Rogers, but Flash Gordon works too. They're just kind of like this like very old timey sci-fi hero. He's like this guy who got transported to another planet, and he ended up becoming like the protector of their world, and like falling in love with it's like a beautiful alien woman. He has all these wacky, lighthearted, high concept adventures. So like I said, kind of like the opposite of Darkhawk. I think DC could do good stuff with this character, kind of like because pretty much all their sci-fi stuff, space stuff, as far as I know, is dominated by the Green Lantern books, which is fine. But I think they should focus more on Adam Strange, just to kind of portray the cosmic side of DC in a new light, like something a bit more callbacky.
I feel like what they could do is just because once again, yeah, Green Lanterns are more the cop version. You would have Adam Strange, and he would just be more of the explorer. Hey, I'm the space Indiana Jones sort of character.
Yes, I'd really like to see something like that.
He showed up for a little bit in the Death of Hawkman stuff recently.
Yeah, Death of
I heard
Hawkman.
about that.
That's what I was kind of imagining he was gonna go. Well, he's gonna mention Death of Hawkman, and then he's gonna have to thank me again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so with Death of Hawkman being so recent, it actually makes sense to be like, hey, this character that you maybe forgot about, that showed up in this book, now he's off doing this, and I could totally see that, him going on adventuring and discovering, exploring strange new worlds, seeking out new life forms, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And since Hawkman's also a kind of a secondary character, I like to talk about him a little bit. I'm a bit intimidated by the current version of Hawkman because from what I can tell, he's like a combination of the two main preview Flashpoint Hawkman. He's Carter Hall and Qatar Hall at the same time, as far as I know.
He was pretty much almost an amalgamation of almost all of them. With his sole purpose was just death.
Yeah, have some reservations about getting into this character because even pre-Flashpoints, even though I knew they were separate characters, I kind of kept getting them mixed up. So for that reason, I've never been a huge Hawkman fan. And then you're getting into the Hawk Girls, which is another bag of worms. So Hawkman's.
Well, you know what they say: the early hawk gets the worm.
Yeah. So, any more comments on Adam Strange or Hawkman, or should we move on?
I'm good.
Yeah.
So let's see. You got another one, Darnell?
Nah, pretty much I'm all tapped out.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, I have one more that I was thinking of. Well, two more, but one in mainstream comics.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about how the X-Men have kind of gotten into disservice lately, and I don't know if you guys read the all-new X-Factor book when it was out. The Polaris-led corporate team of X-Factor.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, I love and I've always loved the character of Cypher.
I mean, I know people usually bag on him, but as a team book, he does make sense because it's a good way of justifying how the fuck can we communicate with anything if all the characters are common languages, especially with aliens.
Exactly, and even if you don't want to have him on a field team going out on adventures and stuff like that's fine. There's that I haven't read it yet, but the newest incarnation of Generation X. The whole point of it is Jubilee teaching a bunch of mutants who, as they say, will never be X-Men because their powers just don't matter.
Yeah.
pretty sure that Doug Ramsey kind of knows where they're coming from, because everybody basically treats him like crap and just kind of puts him over in the corner with safety scissors and glitter and just calls him when they need him. And so I think it'd be cool for him to sort of be a part, if he had been a part of that book. But really, yeah, any team where he could like demonstrate his powers like that. You think about a team like the Ultimates, that book, where they're going around the universe solving the universe's problems. Well, having a universal communicator probably wouldn't be such a bad idea, but just nobody cares about Cypher. But I do. I think he's a cool character, because his powers of understanding and communicating in any language goes from binary to Spanish to Sanskrit to body language. So yeah, he literally can communicate with everybody. He single-handedly took down Master Mold during the Second Coming storyline, like just him on his own, because he just rewrote him from the inside out. And so I think he gets overlooked a lot when there's a lot of cool things you could do with him.
Yeah, I'll admit I've personally never thought of Cypher in a very positive light. I've mostly known him as that one New Mutant who died. But you do make a good point. He does have a lot of potential once you look past his obscure status. I think that he could work very, very well in a team book setting, like you said.
Yeah, and if you haven't read the all new X Factor book, I highly recommend it. I thought it was a really great book. It was by Peter David, who does great X Factor stuff anyway. But it was Cypher, Quicksilver, Polaris, Gambit, and Warlock and Danger, and I thought it was a really cool book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will check that out. So if you guys have no characters left you want to discuss, I'd like to close out the stream by bringing up Young Justice. I mentioned them earlier in the video. I think that's them, along with Young Avengers, like I said, are like the gold standard for teen hero books. The Young Justice series I was a fan of, the comic, not the show. It was like a Tim Drake, who I've already talked about. It was a Connor Kent, Superboy, Bart Allen as Impulse, Cassie Sandsmark as Wonder Girl. Then the other main members were Anita Fight as Empress. Then there was Secrets. I'm ashamed to say I don't remember her real name. And then it was Sissy King as Arrowette. And I think that pretty much all of these characters, there were a few additional members towards the latter end of the run, but I think all these main characters were very well developed. You had like Connor Kent, who was just unbelievably arrogant, cocky, kind of like almost like the antithesis of what Clark Kent was, who was like just this humbled, mild-mannered country boy. Then you had Connor Kent, who was just unbelievable force of personality. Then they kind of changed his character a bit in the Jeff Johns Teen Titans. He was fine then, but I think I like the original version of his character the best. Then you had Bart Allen as Impulse, who is probably the second best speedster in the DCU besides Wally West. I'm very disappointed with what's happened with this character recently. I'll admit I wasn't a fan of turning him into Kid Flash during John's run, but again, that was nothing compared to what happened during the New 52. Then you had Cassie as Wonder Girl. I really like her. She's probably my second favorite Wonder character besides Wonder Woman. I think she was like a very underrated leader character, because the way that book turns out, like when a Robin is on a team book, you assume they're the leader. But the way that book evolved, it ended up becoming that Robin was more of the strategist, and then Cassie Sandsmark was like the team leader. She was like the more confident, charismatic one who actually knew how to whip the team into shape. Robin thought of the plans, Cassie carried them out. So I thought that was a very unique dynamic. And then you had Arrowette, who was interesting. She was like this. Her mother was a wannabe archer superhero, and then she kind of forced her daughter to be a hero just to compensate for her own personal failures. That was an interesting dilemma. Then you had Seeker, who was like a ghost. She had a crazy, interesting backstory. So I really loved this team dynamic. I loved how it wasn't afraid to be really goofy and quirky and not always serious, but it also had its share of dramatic moments. It wasn't a pure cartoon or anything. I can't tell you how much I love this original Young Justice team and how heartbroken I am by what became of them by the New 52.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest complaints I have, not only with the New 52, but even now with Rebirth, because I still feel like they haven't quite come back around, is Young Justice was one of those books that, yeah, they could have a group full of teens, and yeah, there were some serious teen matters going on, but for the most part, it was a fun book, and I don't always want superhero stories to just be fun and happy-go-lucky, but these were characters that enjoyed being heroes, and there's way too many books nowadays of looking at the current Teen Titans where people just are taking themselves way too seriously and seem just overburdened by heroics, and that's okay every now and then, and it's okay with some characters, as long as you balance it out with other characters that are just enjoying life and having a great time. And that's what I miss about that Young Justice series, and especially Bart Allen, who just loved every second of life. And yeah, it's just you don't get that very much these days in either Marvel or DC.
Yeah. Yeah, before they turned him into a mutant terrorist. I mean, not a mutant, just a terrorist from the future who traveled back in time to avoid the authorities for like starting a revolution or something. I shouldn't have even brought up New 52 Teen Titans. I just ruined this whole stream, didn't I?
No, leave it on the mystery. Make the audience confused.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I like Jeff Johns' Teen Titans run fine. He's a very talented writer, but I do feel like taking the Young Justice heroes and like forcing them into like, such a drastically different tone, like a more serious, gritty book, they did lose a bit of their appeal. And I think they were starting to like, to come into their own again towards the end of the pre-Flashpoint DCU. There was a short-lived run by J.T. Kroll with those heroes. And again, it wasn't nearly as good as original Young Justice, but it was a move away from like the more gritty Teen Titans book. So I think if they carried on with that direction, they'd be in a much better place than they're at now.
Absolutely, it's just you'd have to be careful with who you chose for the team, because I mean, obviously, you'd have to have some, even with where you have the characters now, you'd have to have it make some sort of sense of why their outlook is different or why they're acting differently. So you have to kind of probably choose some different characters here and there too.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, since I'd really love for DC to give a Young Justice book another shot with those original 4 heroes, because pretty much all of them are in limbo at the moment. And I think there's definitely still a niche for this book, because they're kind of making Teen Titans work without them, even though I'm not a fan of the current run. I think it would be great to have a Young Justice alongside them to just like, have a different kind of teen book where like, like you said, the characters actually enjoy being superheroes. It's not constantly bogged down by drama and tragedy and horrible crossovers like the Lazarus Contract that ruined all those books for me. But Sorry.
I was just gonna say that, even if you can't give me a whole Young Justice book, heck, give me back a happy-go-lucky Connor Kent, and we'll call it even.
Yeah.
Give me Connor Kent at all, really, and we'll call it even. I miss that character so much, but especially like what you were saying, the Incarnation, where he was very sort of Hollywood and cocky and just all about himself.
Yeah, and I know DC's currently pushing John Kent and Damian Wayne as like the Robin and Superboy duo. Tim and Connor, they're the superior Robin Superboy team up by far. I would have loved for them to have their own series back in the day. Even though I have nothing against Super Sons, I'm a bit disappointed that this is the Robin Superboy duo that they decided to stick with. I feel like we missed out on something great with that bromance.
Oh, for sure. And it was, wasn't there at one point, I'm trying to think, wasn't there a World's Finest run
I don't think
towards the end that had Connor and Tim?
I think the book you're thinking about starred Connor Kent. It wasn't necessarily a team up book, but Tim probably did appear in it at one point.
Yeah, I don't remember clearly, but yeah, they're a great team, and yeah, it's just not the. I know things have to change and we have to make progress, but yeah, I miss those two together. Even though not a huge fan of Tim Drake, at least he's not Jason. Uh, but yeah, I really like him and Connor together.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, you know what I would love? I would love to see a future where Tim is Batman and Connor is Superman, where they're not murderous like that one story arc where they tried to kill themselves in the past. But
There's actually a funny point because in the Multiversity book that I was telling you about, Connor actually is the Superman of that world. Well,
uh-huh.
quote unquote Superman of that world. But because once again they're all spoiled brat celebrities, it's like he's so bored of his mind that he actually every time he goes into like a bar or anything, he tries to like get himself drunk just to like see if anything happens.
Because of course. No, that's disappointing. So
it's actually kind of good because, like I said, by the end of it, in that book, by the end of it, because, like I said, the whole plot is at the beginning. They're all kind of like, they're all kind of like the Kardashians and things like that. Meanwhile, the JSA characters, they're old and they're all just like nostalgically reliving memories by fighting robots.
okay,
But then by the end, it's like, oh crap, things are actually happening.
gotcha. Okay.
And if it's okay for us to go on just a tiny bit longer before we wrap up, a fan has asked us to give our thoughts on Plastic Man.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so are we good with spoilers here or not?
Go ahead. I think for the people, probably pause this and do a 5-minute skip. That'll probably be good.
Yeah,
Okay.
just pause it for a bit.
Cool. So 3, 2, 1. That better be Plastic Man that they're releasing in Dark Days, The Forge.
Oh, I think it is.
Oh my gosh, I love Plastic Man so much. Going back to what I was saying about watching the old Cartoon Network and the reruns they had on there was actually a Plastic Man cartoon. He had his own cartoon back in
Yeah,
like
I
the
remember
60s,
that.
70s. And I used to watch those reruns and freaking love Plastic Man because he's a non-douchey Reed Richards. Just, I mean, as far as
I think for me the best thing about Plastic Man is just the fact that because if he even went through his original incarnation where he was a straight man in a cartoon world, what always makes him better is because you can always dictate what kind of attitude the DC universe is in by him, and then saying, okay, that's the opposite. So because in the Injustice Annual book that he appeared in, he's pretty much joking, saying, "What the hell do you mean you're not tyrants? Look at Astro! You have a supervillain on your team, and he has a cartoon mustache."
That's awesome. Yeah, I
twirls it at night when nobody's looking.
I think your microphone ran away from you.
Okay, yeah, because I was kind of turning away, but he's like, he has a cartoon mustache. I bet he twirls it at night when he's not looking.
Yeah, he's a great character who's been criminally underused in comics. He had a great run in the Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon. Loved it every time he showed up in that. And yeah, I cannot wait to see him come back. I just hope that they don't give me a brooding and overly serious Plastic Man. I want this dude who just basically laughs at everything in life because what other choice does he have?
Yeah, I'll admit Plastic Man is one of those characters who slowly grew on me when I was a teenager and I was first getting into DC. He was probably one of my least favorite characters. He was like, who is this goofy idiot? He's like, I actually liked Ralph Dibny, the elongated man, better at the time. But like I said, he has grown on me a while. I can appreciate him better as like this mega goofball in a fairly serious world. And again, I love that scene in Injustice where he's like talking to just the mega serious, like the epitome of the dark and gritty versions of the Justice League, and he's just like being this goofball and just like pointing out everything that's wrong with the picture. So I do like Plastic Man a lot more now. I am excited to see him post Rebirth, and I think he will be a very quirky, funny character because, like DC, they're not afraid of characters like him anymore. They brought back Mr. Mixel-Spitlick in Superman. We never have seen that character during the New 52. They were way too ashamed to tap into that part of DC history. So I think we will see a pretty good version of Plastic Man in the future.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm glad somebody brought him up because I'd forgotten about him for a second. But that'll be awesome. So yeah, hopefully they do it well.
Okay, so last chance. Are there any other characters we'd like to talk about before wrapping up?
Like any other characters? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just anyone you want to bring up really quickly before we finish the stream?
Nothing comes to my mind right now. Darnell?
Yeah, right now I think for one of the teachers said that they really like the character Doc Samson from the Incredible Hulk series.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, I like the idea that there's the superheroes have like a one that they all go to.
No, that was a cool little quirk, and I don't know. I don't want to be afraid of what Marvel would do with him now, but yeah, he'd be cool to see again.
So, okay, I think it's about time we wrapped up. I think this was a good episode. Thank you for appearing, and we will have another stream up soon. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you. Thanks again for having me.
That was